There comes a moment on the twin flame path when the yearning is no longer just for union, but for truth. Not the kind of truth that makes you feel safe or validated, but the kind that strips you bare, that beckons you into the depths of your own soul, whispering, "It's time." This is the threshold of shadow work. The sacred descent. The meeting of the parts of you you've long tried to outrun. And beloved, if you're hearing this, you're already at the door. The shadow self is not your enemy. It is not darkness in the way the world defines it. It is the unclaimed, your rejected truths, buried wounds, and hidden desires. It is the voice you silenced to be accepted. The rage you swallowed to be seen as good. The grief you tucked away because it made you feel too much. In the twin flame journey, the shadow isn't just personal, it's relational. Because this connection, in its raw and radiant power, exposes everything. The love you feel isn't ordinary. It's catalytic. It activates every unhealed part of you so that nothing false can remain. And that includes the illusions you've built to feel worthy of love. Your shadow self shows up as jealousy, control, fear of abandonment, obsessive thinking, emotional withdrawal. The moments when you lash out or pull back without knowing why. These aren't random behaviors. They are echoes of pain still waiting to be acknowledged. And if left unexamined, they can sabotage your twin flame connection before it even has the chance to breathe. But let me tell you something with tenderness and truth. Your shadow doesn't want to destroy love. It wants to be loved. To confront your shadow is to enter a sacred space where truth, no matter how uncomfortable, becomes the doorway to liberation. It's not just about noticing your flaws or replaying your past. It's about allowing yourself to sit with the raw, unfiltered essence of who you've become as a result of what you've survived. And that takes more courage than most people realize. This journey isn't a spiritual bypass, nor is it a self-improvement checklist. It's a reckoning. A tender, often tearful remembrance of the parts of you that were pushed aside to make room for what others deemed acceptable. What makes this work so profound, and so difficult, is that it demands your full presence. You can't fake it. You can't spiritually sugarcoat your way through it. Because the shadow is smart. It waits for your sincerity. It doesn't open until you stop trying to fix or change it, and simply sit with it. And in that stillness, what rises is not chaos, but clarity. You begin to see how certain behaviors you've long judged in yourself were actually protective mechanisms, ways your nervous system learned to cope when no one else was protecting you. The overthinking, the emotional walls, the people-pleasing, the avoidance, they weren't weaknesses. They were strategies. And now, you have the power to gently lay them down. This reclamation of power doesn't come from force. It comes from recognition. From realizing that every trigger is not just a flare of pain, it's a flare of information. A signal pointing to where you've been unconsciously hurting or hiding. And when you choose not to recoil from that pain, but to lean in with curiosity, something beautiful unfolds. The hardened parts of you soften. You begin to understand rather than judge. To tend rather than punish. And in doing so, you return to yourself, not as a project to be fixed, but as a soul worthy of love in every form it takes. This is the quiet miracle of shadow work. Not that it changes who you are, but that it reveals who you've always been beneath the masks. Someone whole. Someone sacred. Someone free. To truly embrace your shadow is to walk into the heart of your own forgotten stories and say, "You belong." It is the sacred act of no longer hiding from the pain, the shame, or the unmet needs that once made you feel like love had to be earned or proven. This isn't about glorifying the darkness or clinging to old wounds. It's about offering those pieces of yourself a seat at the table of your being. Integration doesn't happen by force. It unfolds through compassion, through a willingness to listen to what your shadow has been trying to protect you from all along. There's a kind of quiet grace that emerges when you stop trying to be perfect and start allowing yourself to be whole. Because suddenly, your patterns make sense. Your fears become understandable. Your old habits, once viewed as self-sabotage, reveal themselves as survival strategies born in moments when you didn't yet have the tools or the safety to do otherwise. And when you can hold those realizations with love instead of condemnation, you begin to heal, not just emotionally, but spiritually. This inner healing directly affects your twin flame connection. Because when you embrace your shadow, you stop projecting it onto your counterpart. You no longer expect them to fill the voids you're unwilling to face. Instead, you meet them from a place of grounded self-awareness. You don't just share your light, you share your truth. And that truth, when rooted in self-acceptance, becomes a powerful bridge between souls. This is why shadow work is not just personal, it is relational, even devotional. It becomes an offering to your union. A silent prayer that says, "I will not ask you to carry what I am unwilling to hold." That kind of love, raw, transparent, and whole, is the foundation upon which sacred partnership is built. There is a unique ache that only the twin flame mirror can bring. It cuts through illusion like a blade through silk, not to wound you, but to awaken you. And yet, when you're in the middle of it, it doesn't feel like awakening. It feels like abandonment. Like rejection. Like all the old scars you thought you had healed suddenly splitting open again. But beloved, that's not cruelty, it's clarity. Because your twin flame is not here to comfort the illusion of who you've become. They're here to call forth the truth of who you are, and that process can be deeply unsettling. The mirror your twin flame holds up is precise and uncompromising. It doesn't show you what you want to see. It shows you what you need to see. When they walk away, it can highlight your fear of being left behind. When they avoid emotion, it may point to your own struggle with intimacy. And when they seem distant, it often reflects the inner places where you, too, have gone silent with yourself. This is why the connection is so intense. It pierces through layers of unconsciousness, pulling buried wounds into the light. But the mirror is not meant to create distance. It's meant to dissolve it. The real invitation here is not to change your twin flame's behavior, but to examine your own reactions. What part of you is crying out for love, for presence, for safety? When you begin to answer those cries from within, something extraordinary shifts. You stop seeing your twin flame as the source of your pain, and start seeing them as the catalyst for your healing. This is where forgiveness becomes essential. Not as a performance, but as a practice. Forgiving them for triggering you. Forgiving yourself for reacting. Letting go of the need to be perfect, and instead, choosing to be present. In this softening, the battlefield becomes sacred ground. A space not just to confront your shadow, but to love through it. Together. Union is often imagined as the final chapter of the twin flame journey, the moment of togetherness, of romantic completion, of divine arrival. But true union is not a destination. It is an unfolding. A conscious choice to meet one another not in perfection, but in presence. And that presence is born not from bypassing your wounds, but from walking through them, hand in hand, soul with soul, shadow beside shadow. When both you and your twin flame engage in shadow work, each tending to your inner worlds with honesty and reverence, you begin to dissolve the illusions that once kept love at arm's length. You stop seeking completion in each other, and instead offer the richness of your wholeness. This is not a love that clings, or pleads, or performs. This is a love that knows. A love that sees with clarity, holds with compassion, and stands in truth even when it's uncomfortable. In such a union, intimacy becomes multidimensional. You no longer fear being seen, because you've already witnessed yourself in the darkest of mirrors. Vulnerability is no longer a risk, it is a gift. Conversations deepen. Silences become sacred. Your bodies may touch, but your souls merge. This is the resurrection, arising not just into togetherness, but into truth. And in this space, your relationship becomes alchemical. It transforms not only you, but everything it touches. Because love, when lived from integration, is a force of healing. It doesn't just satisfy longing. It elevates consciousness. Your union sends ripples into the collective, reminding others that real love is not fantasy, it is frequency. One that is cultivated, embodied, and shared. So no, you're not just healing for you. You're healing for every woman who still believes she must shrink to be chosen. For every man who was taught that sensitivity is weakness. For every soul who aches for love but fears its mirror. This is the power of your union. It is not a fairy tale. It is a revolution. So beloved, if you are deep in the throes of your own shadow work, take heart. The darkness is not a sign you've failed. It's a sign you're awakening. Keep going. Because the union you long for isn't just waiting for the healed version of you, it's waiting for the whole you. The one who has danced with her shadows and chosen to stay. You are not broken. You are becoming. And every shadow you embrace brings you one breath closer to the love your soul was always destined to remember.